Well, good morning. My name is Rocky Moretti. I'm the Director of Policy and Research with TRIP, a transportation research nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. TRIP is a coalition of manufacturing, insurance, construction, labor, and engineering organizations who support us to provide the latest information on transportation, including the condition of the system, traffic safety, and traffic congestion across the country. We do numerous reports similar to this throughout the year. The format today is as the author of the report, I'm going to provide a briefing on the key findings of the report. At that point, my colleague Carolyn Kelly, who is moderating this, will look for any questions. And you can either through the chat function or the raise hand function, let us know that you have a question. And at that point, you'll be elevated to a panelist so that you can ask your questions as you wish. The report today is a follow-up to a report we did 4 years ago that looked at traffic reliability and mobility in Maryland, really looking at the challenges to providing a level of mobility across the state that is going to serve a high quality of life and also serve the state's economy. The report is based on a request to the Department of Transportation for the latest information as it relates to traffic congestion, and also our analysis of a variety of other evaluations of mobility and traffic congestion, including data from the Texas Transportation Institute, which annually looks at the impact of traffic congestion across the country. Since we last did this report 4 years ago, obviously we've been through a major challenge with the pandemic, which has had significant impacts on transportation across the country and certainly here in Maryland. From 2000 to 2019, we saw vehicle travel in Maryland increase by 20. And then during the early parts of the pandemic, it actually plunged by 47%. What we're seeing in 2022 is that vehicle travel is back within 5% of the level of travel in Maryland prior to the pandemic. So it's comparison between 2019 and 2022. And just in the last few days, we've seen the vehicle travel data from the first 2 months of 2023 come out, which shows that vehicle travel in Maryland is up 3% from last year. So we're seeing across the country, and certainly in Maryland, vehicle travel returning to pre-pandemic levels. The patterns are somewhat different. Certainly we're seeing in terms of commuting, we're seeing that travel tends to occur more spread out throughout the day, although the evening rush hours have returned largely to the same as before the pandemic, and the morning rush hours, again, not quite at the same level. TRIP estimates that the cost of traffic congestion in terms of lost time and wasted fuel in Maryland in 2022 was $5.8 billion. In the Baltimore urban area, TRIP estimates that traffic congestion costs the average motorist to spend an additional 59 hours stuck in traffic annually and burning an additional 22 gallons of fuel. And the impact or the cost of that loss of time and fuel is $1,371. In the Washington, D.C. area, the TRIP report found that the average motorist, the cost of traffic congestion is $2,465 in 2022. As a result of spending an additional 99 hours stuck in traffic and wasting 39 gallons of fuel due to traffic congestion. The TRIP report also provides a list of the most congested sections of highway across the state of Maryland. And if you look at that list, and it's in the report, I won't go through it in terms of the actual list, but you'll see portions of the Beltway, both in the Washington metro area, but also the Baltimore Beltway, portions of 270 and also portions of 95, in addition to some state highways showing up at the top of the list. We also looked at the most congested part of arterial roads across the state. And typically these are roadways that typically are going to have traffic lights, very critical routes, not just for commuting, but just moving throughout the state. And again, when you look at the report, you'll see the most congested sections of some of the state's most critical arterial roadways. We also asked the state for information on the worst bottlenecks, which are certainly related to portions of the roadways that are most congested. And again, there's two lists in the report. One looks at portions of the state's highways that have the worst bottlenecks. We see a lot of the same candidates popping up in that list, including portions of 270 and 495 and 695. But we also see Maryland 295 and several other critical state roadways showing up in that list. Finally, we also asked the department for information on what were some of the worst performing intersections across the state. Clearly, the functioning of large signalized intersections are absolutely vital to the ability to keep transportation and travel reliable in the state. And the report lists some of the most critical or the worst performing intersections in terms of a level of service in Maryland. And I think you'll find, not surprisingly, that most of those are in the urban areas surrounding the Washington metro area, in Montgomery County and Prince George's County, but also in the suburbs surrounding the Baltimore and urban area, and also within Baltimore. The report notes that annually $403 billion worth of goods are being shipped to or from locations in the state, and the level or the ability to move that freight in a reliable fashion is absolutely critical to the performance of businesses in Maryland. The report notes that there are portions of Interstate 95 and 81 that now are carrying daily more than 20,000 large trucks a day. And there's also portions of the state highway system where more than 30% of vehicles on those portions of highways daily are large trucks. Again, the trucks are a signal of the state's economy recovery, and the movement of those goods are absolutely vital to the quality of life of people in Maryland and the health of the state's businesses. But the report includes in it a list of the 15 sections of highways in Maryland that are the least reliable for large trucks. These are roadways that are essentially choke points for freight movement in the state and impact the reliability of businesses in Maryland, both in terms of having goods arrive that they need in their production facilities, but also their ability to ship freight from their sites. Again, you see significant portions of some of the state's most critical interstates showing up as being the least reliable in terms of moving commercial travel. Moving forward in Maryland is going to really take, in terms of improving reliability, a multifaceted approach that looks at both expanding the capacity of its transportation system, really of all modes, to help people have the options and the ability to move reliably throughout the state, and also making the existing system more efficient. Fortunately, the Maryland Department of Transportation continues to work hard at making the system more reliable, both looking at the ability to expand the capacity of the state's roadways, highways, transit systems, and bike and pedestrian facilities, and also trying to make that system operate more efficiently. And this includes incident management programs, which are critical to make sure that after crashes or breakdowns, that as quickly as possible, that those can be addressed and stranded motors can be helped. Traffic operations centers that help coordinate emergency response, and also the ability to make sure that in terms of messaging to the public, it's as helpful as possible. The state has an ongoing program to improve traffic signalization, which is absolutely vital to address some of those poorly performing intersections, and also in continued improvement in the bike and pedestrian facilities in the state as well. The last year that the state has taken a look at the impact in terms of improved reliability, they noted that the improvements that year had saved approximately $1.2 billion in terms of time and also fuel across the state. So when you look at that $5.8 billion overall cost in the state, you get some sense of the impact of making those improvements in terms of reliability has across the state. So I'm going to stop my comments there. I've really just given a brief overview, and we'll take a minute or two here for anyone who would like to have some additional questions to just indicate that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to facilitate the question and answers.
Thanks, Rocky. As Rocky noted, I'm Carolyn Kelly. I'm the Director of Communication and Research for TRIP. While we wait for some questions to come in, I'll note that the full report is now up on TRIP's website. You can find that at tripnet, TRIPNET.org. We'll also have a recording of this news conference available there within the next 30 minutes or so. So all of the materials should be able to be found there. Rocky, I don't see any questions that have come in yet. As Rocky noted earlier, if you do have any questions about the report or the findings, you can indicate that with the raise hand function or drop them into the Q&A chat box down at the bottom. So it's a quiet group this morning, Rocky. I think you've covered everything well. So if there's anything else you want to add while we wait just another moment for any questions to come in, go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure that we included this number in the report, but it's a significant one as we're working across the country. And that has been the challenge that state transportation departments are facing due to inflation. The Federal Highway Administration on a quarterly basis looks at the cost of major highway construction projects, which essentially are materials and also labor. And from including all of 2021 and the first 3 quarters of 2022, the level of inflation measured by the Federal Highway Administration is 50%. So this is obviously causing a tremendous concern. Obviously, in 2021, the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was put in place resulted in a significant boost in funding for all surface transportation modes across the country, and that's been obviously a critical help. But the impact of inflation, unfortunately, has blunted some of that assistance. So that is going to be a challenge in Maryland as across the country as states look at improving their highway and transit systems and also expanding their pedestrian and bike facilities.
Thanks, Rocky. We don't have any questions right now.
Okay, well, all the information in terms of reaching myself is available on all of our media material. I'm also happy to do one-on-one video interviews with any of the media in Maryland that might want to do that. So I thank everyone for coming to the briefing today. And as I said, we'll be happy to answer any questions throughout the day on the report. Thank you.